Did they make
No,
contact?
no. It's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Look at this.
Moves him to win it. Carl Edwards bump and dump and run.
Here comes Gordon right up to the bumper again.
You hear that wheel spin, Ben?
Yeah, I did hear that wheel spin.
The bump and run.
There it is.
Gordon underneath to the lead. 2 laps to go. But the bump and run is going to get Jeff Gordon the checkered flag at the end of the winless streak. Gordon wins the Sharpie 500 at Bristol.
And Maine really turned around, made a Riley's cage up.
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael DY, joined by my two best friends, Matt, the Statman Reilly, and Eric, a Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you had a Martin Truex Jr. type of weekend. He was the big winner down in Darlington in dominating force. We'll talk all about it, but first, like, share, subscribe. If you like the podcast, tell all your friends. It's available every Monday night on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And every Tuesday morning, available on YouTube. Shout out to all the friends of the show. Again, shout out to all the mothers. Yesterday was a big Mother's Day. Hope you got your mothers something nice. I hope you treated them well like they treat you. And, of course, follow us on Twitter at Bump the letter N Run Pod and at bumpandrunpod.com. Matt, Daytona, how you guys doing? Did you enjoy the weekend of racing down in Darlington?
I sure did. I was just telling you guys before we started here that it was actually the first time definitely this year, and I don't even know about last year, but it was the first time I got to see just the way my schedule shook out this weekend. It worked out where I was able to see every lap from all 3 races. So I got an action-packed weekend of NASCAR.
That's a whole lot of laps on track.
Sure is. So yeah, it was good. Had a beautiful Mother's Day dinner Saturday night. So that was nice. And like I said, just got a whole lot of NASCAR. And so great weekend.
Very nice. That Saturday Xfinity Series race in the afternoon really helped with those dinner plans too. I'm telling you, we got to do more 1 p.m. starts on Saturdays and Sundays. How about you, Daytona? How's your weekend?
Weekend was good. I could agree with those earlier starts for sure, because my Sundays usually get cut short from my beer league hockey that I'm in. So weekend was good.
How was beer league hockey this week?
Beer league hockey. Whew. Man, it was a rough one. First week of the playoffs, we dropped a pretty big one. We lost like 7-3 or something.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, but it's double elimination, so we're still in it.
That's never good.
Eric, that's a beautiful throwback jacket to Kenseth you got wearing there.
Had to represent the old 2013 Matt Kenseth Dollar General paint scheme for the old throwback weekend. He won 4 races in that scheme, 7 total that year. Came up short by 1 pit stop in Phoenix to Jimmy Johnson that year. 26-second pit stop. Blew his whole season. I
do have to say, though, if that was like a leather jacket, you would be Bob Seger. You look exactly like you're morphing into Bob Seger.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
That's fantastic.
That's a compliment.
I was born arrow straight like a rock.
I'll tell you what, it was a great race. I got a little buck wild on Saturday. Went to a little wine festival with the old lady, and took back a couple bottles of wine. And so Sunday, the couch, that was the spot to be. Little nursing, little hangover, and it was a great race.
It was a rainy Sunday here in northeastern Pennsylvania too. So it's a good day to hit the couch and watch some racing.
All right, so for some reason, I'm running into some video issues with you, Matt.
What are you talking about? You talk about, man.
All right, we're back. All right, we're back in business. Little technical difficulties. I'm gonna leave it in the pot. I'm gonna chop it up just a little bit to cut some time. But we all had great weekends. I spent some time with my mother on Sunday, took her out for dinner, which means I did the Quentin Tarantino version of watching the race. I saw the beginning. I saw the final stage this morning on a replay, and then I watched the highlights all day long on YouTube and whatnot. And then I came home and I watched stage 2 on the DVR. So if I get a little confused talking about the race today, that is why, because I watched it in all sorts of jumbled up mess. All I know is Martin Truex Jr. was up front the whole entire time, no matter what time a part of the race I put it on. Do you guys want to jump into last week's news, though? Get a little last week news update.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
All right, let's pick up where we left off on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Maybe it was Wednesday. Dale Jr. finally announced. Of course, Dale Jr. races at least one Xfinity Series race every year. He announced this year he's going to be at Richmond during the playoffs. Looking forward to that, Matt. I know you're a big Junior fan. Always enjoy seeing him back on track. Speaking of back on track, Junior's back on track for the Xfinity Series race this past weekend. A project.
Was he really? Because I didn't get to see it.
We'll get into that. I feel like a project that was years and years in the making. Of course, his dad drove this old Chevy Nova in the Sportsman Series back then, before it was the Xfinity Series or before it was the Busch Series. It was the Sportsman Series. Dale Jr. found it. He's been rebuilding the car for years now. It was always a pretty cool Twitter update type deal. Every couple months he'd show you new pictures of the Nova, and we finally saw it on track, not live of course because Fox didn't show it. I saw it on social media. We'll get into that. Matt's got some gripes to pick about it. Also announced this past week some big news for the state of Pennsylvania, some big news for us. Pocono finally announcing that they're going to have full grandstands for their doubleheader at the end of June. Of course, Governor Wolf lifting restrictions for the state on June 1st. And it looks like we're going full stands. We're going full camping. I know we all got our camping tickets ready to go. I can't wait for it. I'm looking forward to it. This is my first time going camping at Pocono. I've been there a couple times in the past in the grandstands, but I never went camping. How excited are you guys for Pocono this year?
I can't wait. It's been I go every year, but it's been a few years since I've been camping. And now that I know that it's going to be a packed house, we're going to get that actual race weekend experience. Yeah. I can't wait. It's so much fun. For those of you who have never gone up there and camped in the infield, it's an experience like you'll never get anywhere else. You don't have to like NASCAR at all in order to fully enjoy yourself. So yeah, it's getting closer. We're about a month and a half away, and I can't wait.
Absolutely. We were all talking about it. Eric, you had some pro tips for the camping experience down in Pocono.
Oh yeah, I mean, I live in that infield come Pocono season, and I usually get up there Thursday and stay till Monday. And, sometimes like we've been having around here in Pennsylvania where it's just nonstop rain. And, in the spring, you mix a little bit of sunshine in with that rain and the grass is growing out of control. And, then it rains again. Yeah. You can't get it cut.
Oh, yeah.
Pro tip out there, if you are going to Pocono and you are planning on camping, it'd be pretty smart to either bring if you have a small enough, push behind mower and a can of fuel, or like I do, I'll bring up a weed whacker and some 2-cycle mix, because you know what? When you're going to set that tent up, you don't want to be doing it in 7 inches of grass that's soaking wet.
Very true.
So, having a weed whacker up there, clear your little area out. And, especially when you're walking around, most people don't realize this. If you don't bring extra like shoes or socks, they get soaked. And you don't realize it. It can be sunny out, but that grass, it stays wet. The morning dew, everything. So extra pair of shoes, socks, and a weed whacker. Bring it to Pocono, baby.
Yep.
Let's
now,
go.
We are all camping together, and, we're going to have a little bump and run podcast fort down there. So I will say, if anyone is going to the race, you are in the infield, shout us out on our social media. Come find us. We might or might not do some live content up there. We're not sure yet, but we're definitely going to try to do something up there. So it's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun up there, and I can't wait.
Absolutely. Be on the lookout for the Bump and Run podcast tent and whatnot. We'll be slinging back some beers, and hopefully the lawn will be cut for us. And like you said, though, you never know with this Pennsylvania rain. I feel like the state should be renamed Pennsylvania, because that's all we ever get anymore. Back to the news, though. I just saw this the other day. We're getting a kind of NASCAR themed big budget movie. Hilary Swank going to be playing race legend Janet Guthrie in a feature film. Now, if you don't know who Janet Guthrie is, she was a NASCAR driver back in the 70s, really paved the way for women in the sport. She was the first woman to qualify for both the Daytona 500 and the Indy 500. So she did some Indy racing as well. absolute legend in the sport. I believe she's in the Hall of Fame.
Straight up badass.
Oh yeah,
She's just a
Oh,
badass.
God,
yeah.
And I'll tell you what, Hillary Swank looks like her. Like if you Google
If you
image
look up the
pictures
pictures,
of
yeah.
Janet Guthrie, it's a good casting.
Yeah, I'm really excited. No word on the date when it's gonna come out, but I did see Hillary Swank in some makeup to kind of make her look a little bit older. And yeah, definitely great casting. And you know what? It's always great just to see NASCAR represented in mainstream media, especially in the movies when they're not, parodies like Talladega Nights. I know a lot of people don't like that film. I absolutely love it, but I'm sure this will be a serious film. Also this Wednesday was a big news day. We had the next gen car reveal and I thought it looked absolutely phenomenal. Matt, what did you think about the new car?
I'll tell you what, first of all three manufacturers nailed it.
Knocked them out of the park.
I love that there's differences in all three makes, like noticeable differences too. I think that's huge. I'll say this as a Chevy fan, the Mustang looks freaking good.
Yeah,
it looks
Mustang
really
looks
good.
Awesome.
Like I said, all three look good, but that Mustang looks really good. So I'm excited. I think that I think it's going to be a great product to at least look at on the track. I guess the jury's still out on how they're going to handle out there, but I have faith that NASCAR is going to give us a good product. And I think hopefully other OEMs are out there looking at those cars and saying, wow, they look a lot closer to the street model than they ever have. Maybe now's the time to get into the sport. So I'm crossing my fingers on that because that's only a good thing.
Absolutely. How about you, Eric? What did you think about the big unveil?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think, they hit a home run with these cars. You're going to have the purists out there. They're going to hate everything about it. And, they're going to complain about everything. But, in today's world, moves quick, moves fast, change happens, and you got to roll with the changes. So I'm one of those people. I'm just going to appreciate, and, this is going to be my sport moving forward. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I'm not going to sit and bitch and complain about it. I'm going to appreciate what they're giving me, and I'm going to take the best out of, the product and the car that they put out there. Is there some things that you're going to miss? Of course there are. Is there some things that you would want? Yes. But guess what? This is the way they're going. I like it. I like the fact that, they're going to, a set list of, vendors for the parts. And like Matt said, that is also enticing for these other OEMs to get in because the cost.
OEMs.
Yeah. So I just think the lighting in that could have been a little bit better. Like me,
I was complaining about
it. I kept.
It was dark. You couldn't really. The body lines were kind of hard to see. But I went on Twitter right afterward, and there were some other people there that got a little bit better angles of the lighting and whatnot. But yeah, the body styles. I think I have to agree here with Matt. I mean, I am a Ford guy, so that Mustang did look pretty good. But I'm always curious though when they do change the body styles on the car to make them look like the OEM. I always wondered how they adjusted the body to get the same aero advantage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand they're in the tunnel so that there is no advantage versus the front of, the Camaro versus the front of the Camry or the big rear end of the Camaro versus the smaller one of the like, how did they judge?
I think there is a bit of aero advantage though. There's just some wiggle room between manufacturers.
Okay.
Because
they all kind of have a bit of play in there.
Yeah.
In different aspects of the car. Yeah. Because like you said, like the rear end of the Mustang is shorter compared to the rear end on the Camaro, so I think, and then if you look at the Camry, like the hood of the car, it kind of slopes down a little bit where my whole thing is I know people are going to complain and be like, oh, they have an advantage. Look at them at the short tracks. Their cars, like, I wonder, like, I know there's going to be a little bit, but like they had to have given some kind of, there's like a tolerance.
I think there's
plus
some
10,
tolerances,
10, either here and there.
Yeah.
But I'm overall pleased with the look of the cars.
Yeah, I think they look awesome, especially that Mustang. And you want to know what? I think the current Camaro looks great. I think that's the best looking one that we currently have out there. I think that looks really true to form. but you see that new Mustang and you drive past a Ford dealership. Like we live in an area where there's a Ford dealership right on the main Ave. So we drive by Barber Ford and Exeter all the time, and you see those brand new Mustangs and how aggressive they look with that kind of like swooped hood down, and it just looks real mean. And those Cup cars look exactly like that. But Eric, there's a bit of an aero advantage for the different manufacturers. That was an issue last year with the Camaro. They had to
redo the front.
They had to redo it. Yeah. And they made some adjustments, and that's where we get like the ZL1R or whatever the current Cup car is. But I'm looking forward to it. We did get a little taste of what they would do in the pack. Now you can't really say how true to form it is because it is sim racing, but the iRacing Pro Invitational happened Wednesday night with the new next gen cars down in Darlington, and Eric Jones, Daytona Ron's driver, the big winner.
Get it done.
Hell yeah. And you pointed out in our text message, does that make Eric Jones the first next gen winner? I think it does.
I guess so, right?
Right.
Well,
I'll take it. Even though it's iRacing, hey, that's technically the first win in the next gen car.
Hey, a win is a win, whether it be on screen or on track. But speaking of wins, let's get into the racing weekend. Friday night, we had a Truck Series race won by one Sheldon Creed, the first truck to win that wasn't a Toyota all season long. Thought that was a pretty interesting stat, and it was not the cleanest of truck races, ending under caution. We had 66 laps under caution, including the final lap. And we had a Talladega-style big one. I wasn't even watching the truck race, to be honest with you. I forgot the trucks were on track altogether on Friday night. And Matt, you texted us, you're like, oh man, Talladega big one in Darlington. So I quick turned it on and I saw the replay. But you said you watched the whole race. What'd you think about the truck race?
It was sloppy. I mean, the racing, when they actually did get to racing, it was great racing, but it was sloppy. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a shout out to Vince Welsh, who calls those truck races for Fox. During that big one, Sheldon Creed, if you haven't seen it, go look up the video of the way he maneuvered himself through that crash and avoided everyone and got through there.
Yeah.
Vince Welsh said, that could be the difference between a win and a loss for some guys. And then Sheldon Creed went and won the race. So a shout out to Nostradamus there in Vince Welsh. It was a good race. Like I said, it was sloppy, but that tends to happen with these truck races. A lot of young, anxious guys who don't really know patience yet. So you kind of get that with the product, and I'm not complaining. I love the truck series.
Yeah.
It was a good race. So
plus, you have a lot of rookies in the truck series. They're not getting practice. They're not getting qualifying. And Darlington is one of the toughest tracks on the circuit. So of course it's not going to be the cleanest of racing, kind of like what we saw at the Daytona road course. You throw anything new at people that are fresh in the sport and you're going to see struggles like that.
It'll be tough. Right.
We move on to Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m. start, and I was loving it because I got to see the whole entire thing. Justin Allgaier, a little Gator with his second win of the season. Big day for junior motorsports. We had Justin Allgaier. We had Josh Berry coming in second. Noah Gragson was in the top 10 until he failed post-race inspection. Unfortunately, forfeiting his fourth Dash for Cash win. I know that's a big hit to the pocket, $100K out the door due to ride height inspections. I saw today they are going to appeal it, but I've never seen a successful appeal when it comes to the ride height rule for Xfinity Series. What do you guys think about the Xfinity Series race?
I was pleased. Go ahead.
I didn't see a single lap of the Xfinity Series race.
Okay.
Just
busy weekend.
It's
tough when it's thrown right in the middle of the day, but
you're sipping wine.
Oh, I was sipping wine, buddy.
That's right. Well, I'll just chime in. Obviously, my bias to junior motorsports. I was happy. You know what's happening with me too is I am becoming a huge Josh Berry fan. Like huge Josh Berry fan. The guy, like I said a couple episodes ago, guy's got a great story. He's running really well. I mean, for him to run second and even have a shot at the win late at Darlington. I believe is only his second time there, but he didn't have practice or anything. It's been a couple years since he's run at Darlington. Like what he alluded to, it's one of the toughest tracks that NASCAR goes to, and he keeps showing that he belongs. I think he's only got 4 more races this year. Yeah. I know it's really important to him, and even to Dale Jr. has alluded to it as well. It's important to see that second win. It's not an end all be all for them to get that second win, but they still want to get there. I hope that sponsorship is watching and paying attention, because that's the biggest thing with him not getting more of an opportunity. So
absolutely.
I'm becoming a huge fan of his. He's got the right attitude about it. He knows that he's kind of on borrowed time, and he's trying to make the most of it. So good on him, and good on Junior Motorsports.
You know what? I was trying to get it out. I didn't know how to really word it before. Like, I think my deal with the Xfinity, I don't have a player in the field right now. Like Whitey, you and I, we used to go,
we used battled to text back and forth with Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick. It was fun.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So once Christopher Bell, once he went up to Cup, and I never really started following somebody like I used to.
Same thing happened to me.
And then Christopher Bell, I don't really have that one driver that I'm really rooting for in Xfinity. So, I've been finding myself not really tuning in as much as I used to. I used to watch every single Xfinity race if I had the opportunity. And now it's just kind of I don't mind kind of blowing it off if I have to, So maybe I'll have to maybe I'll hop on the Josh Berry bandwagon here and push for him to get a ride. And
he's only got 4 more starts. So
yeah, but you never know what's going to happen next season for him. Something might materialize.
And the kid that's jumping in to fill in that number 8 car for the second half of the season, Sam Mayer, he is an up and comer that I believe next year has a full-time truck ride. I believe, but he's getting I believe he's in the ARCA series now, either ARCA or K&N. I think it's the K&N, and he's a big time up and comer, and he'll be in that number 8 car for the majority of the second half of the season. So he's also somebody that I'm going to be paying close attention to as well.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about the Xfinity series and the truck series. Well, not so much the truck series, because if you get behind a driver in the truck series, you can kind of follow them up their career. Well, once you have an Xfinity Series driver, he moves up to Cup, you kind of forget about the Xfinity Series. Same thing happened to me, Eric, where I just haven't found that guy to really root for. And like you said, Matt, that Josh Berry story, for the folks at home that don't really know his story, he is a short track darling. He's one of those guys that's been killing it on the short track scene for years and years. He ran for Junior Motorsports in their late model program. One of those guys who's just been, grinding at it for the last 10 years or so, and is finally getting the opportunity that his talent deserves. And like I said, just really hope to see some money materialize for him for a full-time Xfinity Series ride or something in the future, because he's definitely talented. I mean, he won a race already running a limited schedule in a car that he's never run before. So, I mean, hats off to him. And if he goes full-time next year, maybe that will be the guy start cheering for. I always love Junior Motorsports guys, except for I have personal beef with Noah Gregson. But other than that, I love all the Junior Motorsports guys. I root for them.
I have a personal beef.
Well, like I said,
like he stole his bike as a kid.
No, like you say, you want to know what? There's just something about him. I've complained about him in our group chats plenty of times. But yeah, no, I mean, he smashed. I mean, there is one Xfinity Series guy I root for. He did. He kicked him down the hallway after he spiked him.
Personal gripe with him.
He got drunk and he hit on my girlfriend right in front of me. Just one of those things. I don't know. I just don't like the guy. Anyways, a guy I do kind of like, Martin Truex Jr., the big winner down at the Cup race down in Darlington for the Goodyear 400 in dominating fashion.
Oh no, Eric's warm already.
Jim B's kicking in. I'm laughing.
And the show is going. The show's going off the rails. It was a long weekend of racing. It's going to be a long podcast the way things are going. But yeah, Martin Truex Jr., the big winner, dominating fashion. Just some highlights of the race. We only had 6 cautions for 36 laps, 19 lead changes between 10 drivers. But most of those lead changes were during green flag pit stops because Martin Truex Jr. was in absolute control of that entire race. But apparently he wasn't in control of his car the whole entire time. He said it was an absolute bear to drive, which is exactly what the fans have been asking for. Now, people with the low downforce package, they've been saying, oh, these cars are too easy to drive. We want to see it more in the hands of the driver. And Martin Truex Jr., he was knuckles up on that car, really fucking bearing it on. And he did a hell of a job wheeling that to his third first place finish of the season, the only driver with multiple wins. But something I thought was interesting, Matt, you're the stat man, but I got a stat for you. 2,939 total green flag passes, more than the last 14 cup races at Darlington. I mean, MTJ may have won in dominating fashion, but Sunday was a day for mid-pack racing. And if you were following those battles, you were getting one hell of a race. You guys want to jump into our race grades for the week?
Let's do it.
Sir.
All right, Matt, let's go first with you. What was your race grade?
So I gave it a B+. Like you just said, one guy ran away with it. But every once in a while, I'm okay with that. It was a good old fashioned ass kicking, and that's all right. Sometimes, we're not going to have, every race be a nail biter down to the finish. That's just not going to happen. Just like you're not going to have every football game be tied with 2 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes you're going to have a runaway. So what I do in those instances to see, okay, one guy's dominating. How is the rest of the pack doing? How are they racing?
Yeah.
And from second through 40th, as Whitey just said, there was obvious passing. I thought the racing was really, really, really good. It's not like you had multiple guys get out in front and then take off. So
there.
it wasn't a clean air thing. It was just one guy was head and shoulders above everyone else, and that's okay sometimes. I thought it was good action. Larson challenging for the lead at the end, those last 25 laps was so much fun and definitely raised my grade. I think I was probably going to give it like a B-. It wasn't the most entertaining race, but I still found, the positives in there. But Larson coming up challenging for the lead with 25 to go really raised the grade for me up to a B+. The only reason it probably wasn't in that A bracket was because Martin, at one point he was up, he had like a 10 or 11 second lead on second. But other than that, no complaints from me whatsoever. Great race, good old fashioned ass kicking. And I liked what I saw.
Yeah. How about you, Eric? What was your race grade?
I went right in line with Matt here. I gave it a B+ as well. Watching that race and watching these drivers struggle around that racetrack with these cars, even when they were the best car on the racetrack. Yeah. That's what you want. This Darlington and this package, what it produced, this was a racer's race. This allowed the cream to rise to the top. And I like that.
Absolutely.
Yes, Truex might have dominated, but guess what? He dominated. It's not like he was just sitting back there, smoking a cigar and sipping on a little glass of Jim Beam going around the racetrack. No, in order for him to dominate, he had to really drive that car. And he said it, and like Denny said it, this was it. They had fun. The drivers had fun. They were sliding around. They were slipping around. And like you really had to work the off throttle. They showed that graph where like last year, pinned
all the way up.
This.
Yeah.
Oh, it was, you had a really, and this is where I was saying I want the sport to go is let the driver control the race a little bit more than the downforce does. Yeah. And you saw it with that throttle graph where you really had to, perfect that. And if you didn't have that figured out, they had to manage their tires on some of these long green flag runs.
I was just going to say it was about managing tires at points too.
That was more for the driver than it was for the car. And that's what they've been screaming for. That's what the fans wanted. And guess what? We had that. And yes, do you sometimes get a dominant car? Of course you do. But, I saw someone tweeted it today. I don't know word for word, but it was somewhere along the lines of, what's the difference between, Truex, dominating the way he did, and 20th being, 25 seconds behind or whatever, gapping the whole field? Or what's the difference if, okay, everyone finishes within 6 seconds, but once you get to the back of the person's car, they can't pass them.
Yeah.
Right.
Just so
Right.
what are you looking for? I would rather see the battles in the mid pack. I would rather see the drivers that whole time instead of just being glued to the racetrack. I can't pass them because of this big air bubble.
Yeah.
You know what? Hey, I would rather see those drivers struggle for 3 hours than just sit around there. Oh, I can't pass. Oh, I can't pass.
Yep.
You
Totally agreed.
watch these drivers and you watch their talent. That's what you were able to see this Sunday at Darlington. So I didn't give it the full A because, if you're not, it did get drug out at certain points because of that.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I don't try to get biased. I try to give it a true grade from a race fan's perspective. And, I do take that into consideration. Like, yeah, okay, it did kind of go out. I understand why, but it gets a solid B+ from me. How about you there, Whitey?
Yeah, I gave it a solid B. See, again, though, because I watched it in different segments and everything, I really couldn't absorb the race as a whole. But what I saw, I'm like, yeah, that's like a B race. There's nothing special to give it really a B+ in my mind. But again, yeah, like you said, like a lot of people love to complain when the leader pulls away and is dominant, and I'm usually one of them. I'll own up to that. I hate when a driver just pulls away and he's lights out and there's nothing but there were those mid-pack battles that you could watch, and I really enjoyed that. And Darlington's one of those tracks where you kind of have to expect that because it's hard to pass.
Tough racetrack.
There's only there's one groove really in those turns. You can't really pass in the turns. You have to wait until the straightaways to pass. And even with all that, we still saw a lot of great passing in the middle of the packs and whatnot. Maybe I'm a little bit biased too because my driver did particularly well for the most part. He was up front for a lot of the day, so that made it more enjoyable for me. And I tell you what, I tried to look at the race as a whole, but like we're really starting to see the cream of the crop rising here. Like the top 10 were the winners that we've seen in the past couple of weeks, and I think this is how it's going to shake out. I know for a while there we were hoping for 16 different winners. And we have 11 now. I don't know if it's going to get to 16. I think we're going to really start seeing some of these guys start winning multiple races.
We have three. We have three more that we expect to win. Right, that happened. We have Harvick, Chase, and Hamlin.
Yeah. So
that puts us at 14, right? Yeah, that puts us at 14. So that leaves 2 spots open. I'm just hoping that because I'm a Chase fan, I'm just hoping that we don't have a couple more unexpected winners. Or there's going to be some issues as far as could you imagine if the defending champ doesn't even make the playoffs because there were so many different winners? I think it would be, as a fan, it would suck.
Insane.
It would also be a crazy cool story too, Yeah. So I don't know. I hope it doesn't play out that way, but you never know the way the season's going.
I don't know.
I saw NASCAR put out a tweet today. It was pretty funny. Like they said, there was a picture of Denny Hamlin that said still searching for P1 with his head down. Like it was kind of like an ignorant tweet from NASCAR. And like they actually tweeted another one like ignorantly towards Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
Came back. I was like, dude, like, why you hating?
Kyle's and like, you guys are ridiculous. Like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like, why are you even pointing?
Did you see what Denny replied?
I did. I saw what Denny said. It was amazing.
He goes, found P1 in the standings on your website, and it was the overall cup standings.
Yeah, because Denny's still in first.
What a dig.
So, and you want to know what?
I thought that was
Denny's
funny.
Still in first by what, like 75
points? Yeah.
So that
and Martin Truex Jr. has 3 wins. That goes to show you how dominant Hamlin's been without winning.
And that goes to show you how important stage points are, stage wins are. Denny has the most stage wins this season. But yeah, like, I don't know. This playoff picture is really starting to shape up into something that I think is going to get real crazy because we have 14 races left of the regular season. And we only have a handful of playoff spots that aren't guaranteed so far.
I texted you guys.
I think you guys see. Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, there's a sneaky good points battle going on right now that between Harvick and Chase. They're only after yesterday's race. I think Harvick has like 3 points on Chase, but they're only within a couple points of each other. And if they don't start winning, that could be a huge battle coming down to the end there with 2 former champions of our sport, one being the defending champion there. So I don't know. I mean, I still think both of them are going to get their regular season win and get themselves into the playoffs too. But it's interesting to watch right now.
Yeah, right now Kevin Harvick is in 7th. 3 points ahead, Chase in 8th, both winless on the season.
So like you guys said, like, okay, like, Denny doesn't have a win yet. Harvick doesn't have a win. Chase doesn't have a win. And there's some other people out there that are still used to getting at least 1 win a year that, they're not getting it or they haven't gotten it yet, or they might not even be close.
Look at Kurt Busch.
Yeah.
Having the worst season of his career right now.
You're going to have some of those drivers' tempers get a little out of the hand. And you're going to see a lot more maybe risky moves out of those drivers. Maybe, maybe those drivers who need that, like that pressure is going to build on them. Man, I'm used to already being locked into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm Kurt Busch. What am I doing? Okay, I really need to step it up. And maybe he gets aggressive or not just him, these other drivers with some of these people that are already in contention and already have wins and maybe take them out and cause some bad blood. I'm just, some of these drivers that are used to winning or getting wins that haven't, I think it's going to start the pressure's building. The pressure's building.
Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you a points battle I'm watching very closely right now. It's between, and I'm going to fanboy right now, Tyler Reddick and Matt DiBenedetto. They are tied in the points at 16 and 17 with 268 points. And both of them have been having great weeks. My guy, Tyler Reddick, though, I don't know how he did this. He finished the race with a broken front right spring. They took his car to the NASCAR R&D. He got pulled for a random inspection, and his whole entire right front spring was just blown up. We don't know when it happened. I want to know maybe if he could have won the race had that not happened. I don't know. He was looking good. He was in 2nd and 3rd for a while there. But do you guys want to get into that? I was going to make that my wreckers and my checkers kind of combined, but you guys want to get into the checkers and wreckers segment?
Do it.
I'm in.
All right, Eric, let's start with you with the checkers and wreckers this week.
My checkers, and seems like this is becoming a weekly thing for me here. And I don't know if I'm just finding myself liking this driver more and more. And I just do find myself rooting for him. And, Willie B. I'm going to,
absolutely.
If mainstream media is not going to give him the love, I'm going to give him the love because I'm noticing what he's doing on the racetrack. And 10 straight top 10s, first Hendrick driver to do it since Jeff Gordon in 2007.
That's a huge
that's
accomplishment.
Impressive all in its own. Yes. You all know the drivers that came through there, and one of them happens to be 7-time champion. So, for Willie B to take that away from Jeff Gordon, that was huge. And it just proves that week in and week out, he is just in the top 5 solid. Like there is no doubt in my mind from here on out, he's going to finish in the top 5. Like he shows no weakness, which to me, I would be a little nervous because he might be using up all of his good luck now. And come later on
you might want to
filter a little bit. Yeah. But Willie B is just dominating, and he gets my checkers for week in and week out. I don't even know if I could say overperforming now. I think this is what should be.
This is just his performance. Yeah. Yes. I tell you what, I wish I'd been playing him in fantasy more than I have. I've been really dropping the ball.
I'm saving him, and that's why I'm
what I'm getting afraid of. Yeah.
Using him now, and is he gonna lose that? That special charm that he's going now, is he going to lose it? I'm hoping not, but
I hope not too, because I'm definitely putting him in my lineup for Dover this week. But like you said, is he using up all of his luck? We will see. I think he's doing phenomenal, and again, a quiet, phenomenal season.
He needed to have this season too, because a lot of people were kind of chirping about him. He hasn't really put it all together until this year, and now he's really putting it together.
Well, even last year, because this is William Byron's 4th full-time year.
3rd or 4th? Yeah, 3rd or 4th.
Oh, is it? It's either his 3rd or 4th. I can't remember. Yeah. Regardless, I remember last year texting you, Matt, and being like, I forget what race it was. It was midway through the summer. Again, last year's schedule got all mixed up though. And I remember texting you, it might have even been like a Wednesday Darlington race. And I go, who do you think gets their win first? Tyler Reddick or William Byron? This was before Byron won, and Tyler was doing really well at the time. And then, this year it's like night and day difference. Of course, William Byron had his first win at Daytona last year. People always love to say, oh, it's a plate track, anyone can win. I mean, he deserved that win. He earned that win, and he did okay in the playoffs. They had some bad luck when it came to their cars and stuff, but this year he's just been lights out, and you got to think it's the new crew chief. They're gelling more than he did with Alan Gustafson, or no, not Alan. Oh man,
he was with
Alan.
No, he had Chad Knaus last year.
Yeah, Chad Knaus. So now Knaus is running the whole. Man, I am doing terrible in this podcast. My mind is.
It's a Monday, man.
It's a Monday. It's a Monday.
Record a podcast on a Monday.
No, this is what happens when Whitey has to go for a Mother's Day dinner during the Darlington throwback race.
Through
this is just a carryover of his anxiety and everything from the weekend. He's flustered. When Whitey gets flustered, it takes a couple days to bounce back.
It's throwing me off. So Chad Knaus, he retired last year. Now he's the VP of competition for Hendrick Motorsports. So he's running the whole entire show basically for all four of those teams. William Byron has his old Truck Series crew chief. They already have chemistry. I feel like just everything as a whole, Chad is more of a hands-on guy when it comes to all the teams. So I think that's why, Hendrick is doing better than last year. Of course, Chase struggling to get his first win of the season a little bit, but he's still having a solid run of it. I mean, he's getting top 10s almost every single week. Like we said, he's like 7th in the points. So, but yeah, William Byron having one hell of a season, a sleeper season. How about your records, Eric? What was your records this week?
My records goes to Stuart Haas. I mean, what are they doing? I don't know if it's the equipment, if it's the setups they're using, if it's just they can't figure it out. Was last year a fluke for Eric Almirola? Was it the package that put him up there and had him run so well? Or is he another Danica Patrick where he's in that 10 car because Smithfield, is going to stick with them and he brings the money over because he is just not performing well this year at all. I know a lot of it is luck. The same accident almost happened yesterday. His 10 car, smashed
Cole Custer.
Cole Custer,
it was like the exact same wreck. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Stuart Haas is just struggling. I know Harvick had a decent race yesterday. And I had high hopes for Harvick yesterday to win that race. And, I just think as a group, Harvick is obviously the top dog there and everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But as a whole organization, they're struggling right now and they really need to figure it out and get it together. And, it's not just this week. It seems like a pattern for them this season that, they run into some trouble and just have some bad luck. So, I got to wreck Stuart Haas. They're just bad luck.
So far, I was looking at the numbers last night. I just pulled up Eric Almirola's record so far, and since he's moved over to Stuart Haas Racing, he hasn't missed the playoffs. His best season with Stuart Haas was his first. It was in 2018. He got 5th in the Cup Series standings overall. 2019, 14th place, and 2020, he was in 15th place. Currently, he is doing the worst I've seen him. He is in 28th place, not even close to sniffing, pointing his way into the playoffs right now. And of course, like we said, his whole season so far has just been riddled with bad luck. I don't know if he pissed off some old lady at a grocery store and she gave him the evil eye and froze his name in a freezer to give him bad luck, but he needs to go to a shaman or something. He needs to burn some, what's the stuff hippies?
Sage.
He's got to burn some sage.
The second time Eric's been ready for that question this year.
Yeah, he's got to do something because he's struggling. And you want to know what?
Eric was sitting there like, please say sage. Please say sage.
He's got some sage burning downstairs right now, getting rid of the bad vibes. But no, I last year I thought Eric Almirola was going to have a phenomenal year. He got all those poll awards through the bingo ball system and stuff, and he did stuff with it. He got a lot of top 10s last year. But this year, just bad luck after bad luck. And like you said, Eric, I don't know if it's the Smith. It's the Smith.
My cat got my knee, dude. Oh, just came out of nowhere, dude. Just came out of nowhere. Came out of nowhere. But I thought my leg was a scratching post, dude. Just dug right in.
This show,
Couldn't do anything about it.
this show is going off the rails. And you want to know what? Earlier today, we got shouted out on national radio on Sirius XM Channel 90. Dave Moody dropped the Bumper Run Podcast Twitter handle out there. And so if you're a new listener, usually go back to some of our older episodes. We're usually a little bit more polished than we are this week.
I'm loving this podcast.
Again, though, we're having fun. But what was I saying? Like I said, though, I don't know if it's the Smithfield money keeping him going, but if he doesn't start performing, I mean, I could see some Xfinity Series guys taking his spot real quick, or you know, I mean, we got a couple openings happening. I mean, Matt DiBenedetto's might be looking for a ride at the end of the season. He's already a Ford driver. Maybe he moves over to Stewart Haas Racing. Who knows what happens with that 10
and I'll
car?
tell you what, Whitey, I was a little disappointed too to see that 10 car crash, because I would have loved to see that paint scheme get a little bit more TV time.
It was a cool looking car. It was throwback to Mark Martin.
Yeah, Mark Martin, Busch series car, I believe you got in like 2000.
Yeah,
I would have liked to see that car get a little more TV time. That was a cool looking car.
Again, Winn-Dixie on the side of that car, though. I don't know how much money Winn-Dixie is spending to sponsor cars these days. They must have a big racing budget because they're all over the place. We don't even have a Winn-Dixie up north. How about you, Matt? What's your checkers and records for this week?
So my checkers goes to the Kyle Larson threading the needle pass.
Absolutely amazing.
With 8 to go, he was chasing down the 11 of Denny Hamlin for the lead, and Larson went in between the 8 of Reddick and the 6 of Ryan Newman.
In a corner too. I don't know how he pulled that off
at Darlington. And it's hard enough to pass on the inside or the outside of Darlington, let alone thread the needle and go right between someone in a corner, because it's such tight, hard racing. And I thought that was just an unbelievable ballsy move. So I had to give my checkers to him for that.
I tell you what, you gotta give credit to Ryan Newman for holding it low down there in the third groove there, because that is not easy. I think Larson's a little lucky that he had a veteran on the inside of him. And then, of course, Reddick is used to that high line, so he had no problem holding his line up top there. But yeah, absolutely amazing move. If you haven't seen it, you got to look it up on social media. It's insane. He threaded that needle like crazy.
Yeah, I think Larson saw his window was closing to get to Denny, or
to Martin.
I'm sorry. I said Denny before. Yeah, he was chasing down Martin Truex, and I think he saw the window closing there. And for once, it was, Larson was on the other side of things, right? It's usually him, dominating a race that gives it up one way or another in the last few laps. He was almost the one to steal one from Martin. So that was super fun to watch. My records is going to, God, I'd hate to do this. My records is going to Fox for not showing Junior's Nova pace the field before the Xfinity race. There was a lot of hoopla about it during and after the race on Saturday. So we touched on it before. Junior spent a few years working on this along with some of the guys within his garage and his
big
organization.
Time passion project.
Yeah, it was a huge passion project. It was his dad's. Then what was it? The Sportsman series, right?
Series, yeah.
And he made a really big deal about it. He talked about it. There was a big lead up on social media. He talked about it a lot on his podcast. People were really, really excited to see it. I guess Fox did a little bit on it before the race started. But during the pace laps, they didn't talk about it. They didn't show it. I thought that sucked for Junior,
They had to go to commercials during the pace laps, didn't they?
Well, that, and I heard, so Larry Mack, who obviously works for Fox, got a little defensive about it on his Sirius XM show today, which I get, it's his job. It's his network that he works for.
Yeah.
I get him getting defensive, but what he said, and I love Larry Mack. I have the utmost respect for Larry Mack, but what he said made no sense to me. He said they didn't have a lot of time within the pace laps to show it, but instead they decided to interview Brandon Godovic, who before Saturday's race I never heard of before in my entire life, and I'm a huge racing fan. Somebody who was starting 27th and finished 35th. That's who you chose to interview before the race started instead of showing this passion project that Junior was using to pace the field. I just thought that was a lame ass excuse on Fox. I thought it sucked. I did think about the fact of, well, is it because Junior's an NBC guy? But Larry Mack also shot that down.
He said that was basically bullshit.
Fox and NBC do work hand in hand a lot together. So I won't go into that tinfoil hat scenario where they kind of blackballed him because he's an NBC guy. I don't really believe in that. I just don't think that there was a good excuse for them to not show it, at least for 5-10 seconds.
Something.
Explain it real quick. If you want to see more about it, go back to the bit we did before the show, do something like that. But they didn't show it. I know Kelly Earnhardt Miller, Dale's sister, kind of went on a little bit of a rant on Twitter rant. and then kind of retracted some of those statements that she said too. So I don't know.
Well, because it's personal to her too. I mean, it's her father's car, it's her brother on track. She wants to see that, the pomp and the circumstance, the throwback weekend. It's a throwback car. It's an original car that raced at that track back in the day. So I understand people being upset, but I'm just saying that Brandon Godovac throwback car was a really nice Kyle Petty Hot Wheels car. It looked really good. It looked really good.
It was. But again, who's Brandon Godovic? And I'm sure, knowing Junior, he's a humble dude. He's as humble as they come with as much fame and success as he's had.
Yeah.
I know he's probably going to poo-poo it on his podcast and not really make a big deal about it. He probably hates that it even became
a big thing. Yeah.
So that's all. I just thought it was kind of lousy.
That NASCAR really, really was advertising it on their socials today. Like, kind of making up.
Drumming it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think because every other post from NASCAR on NBC, NASCAR on Fox, NASCAR to whatever NASCAR was associated with, they were showing the slow motion of that car pulling out onto the racetrack and the pace laps of the truck. So, I think they tried to make up for not showing it by giving it a ton of social media kind of maybe time or shout outs. But to me, it seemed like they were just trying to give it a little bit of a boost.
No,
that's all I had for it. I just wanted to get that out there.
For the beginning of the Xfinity Series race too, I was listening on radio and they mentioned it on the radio. I was like, oh, I gotta check it out. So I switched to FS1 real quick, and there was a little bit of a time delay. So the race was actually going to green. I'm like, I guess I missed it. And then I realized I didn't miss it. They never showed it. I did see it on, like you said, Eric, NASCAR social media. Later on in the evening, they showed it too on the NASCAR Facebook page and NASCAR Twitter and all that stuff. But yeah, I guess, just an oversight on Fox, and who knows, maybe the one guy making the calls wasn't really paying attention, didn't really think about it. Just could have been an oversight,
That guy could have been having a day like, our podcast is having today.
Yeah,
a little off the rails.
Just a little off the rails a little bit.
Sure.
You know what happened to the podcast today, I think, because this is a real cool story, but I was building a model car when I got home, and I think some of the glue fumes are still sitting around in the bedroom, and it's throwing me off.
Glue huffing session.
Yeah, I feel like a teenager in the 70s today. All right, getting into my checkers and records.
Throwback weekend.
Speaking of throwback weekend, that is my checkers as a whole, making the throwback weekend its own standalone weekend for Darlington. I know we talked about this last week, how you guys wanted to keep it in the playoffs. I liked it as a standalone this weekend. I thought it gave it more of a throwback identity, where Fox really jumped into the throwback themes. Everyone was wearing silly Anchorman suits and all that stuff. Larry Mack had a mustache and everything. And I feel like they really embraced the throwback weekend more than they have in the past, because, well, when they did in the past, it was the Southern 500. It's one of the crown jewels of racing. It's Labor Day weekend. So it's the playoffs. There's all those things going on. So I think it was nice to just have a standalone throwback weekend. You guys are kind of shaking your heads like you disagree. But yeah,
No,
I mean,
I enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
just didn't like that I just didn't like that it wasn't the Southern 500.
Yeah.
That's my only.
but
Yeah,
and I
agree.
get because the
That's my
Southern
only gripe about it.
See, but I get because like the Southern 500 is like this iconic race and everything, so it makes you think about the old times. But I think you get that feeling just for Darlington in general, you know. So I like to see the Southern 500 just as a nice long endurance race at a tough track in the playoffs on Labor Day weekend. You get to party with your friends and drink outside, have a fire, and watch the race. Speaking of, I think last year we watched it in Eric's garage. I think this year I'm going to buy a projector and project it on the side of your garage for when it gets dark.
Yeah.
So we can have the fire going outside and we have the big projector. I saw a fight like that a couple years ago. Someone had a Mayweather Pacquiao fight on a projector outdoors. I thought that was really cool. I think we got to do that for NASCAR this summer.
I'm in.
Absolutely. Count me in.
All right. For my wreckers, I'm giving it to all three of us as a collective whole for in our picks last week, not picking Martin Truex Jr. I didn't realize they were running the short track package this week at Darlington. And so far, all three of Martin Truex Jr.'s wins came with the short track package. They are absolutely dominant when it comes to the short track package. And I feel like a fool for not picking them. Maybe because I didn't do any research beforehand. And again, this week, I haven't done any research for my picks. So I'm going to be
I'm
and Han.
my reinforces. That's why I didn't play him.
Are they running that short track package at Dover? The Monster
Yes, they
Mile?
are. They are running the short track package at Dover. So if one of us doesn't pick Martin Truex Jr., I am. But yeah, that pretty much does it for my checkers and wreckers. Not much to complain about. Just a solid race overall. Just going through some of the talking points. On the opposite end of William Byron having a dominating season, what is going on with Alex Bowman? He is struggling. They had 2 unscheduled pit stops that put them behind the 8 ball, and they had a cool throwback, but man, were they struggling on track this week and in the last couple weeks, really. What do you guys think about Alex Bowman? Do you think he's in trouble?
No. He had his win, and I think they're probably trying to play around with some stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about Bowman at all. I'm not worried about Hendrick at all.
No.
Bowman kind of reminds me of when Truex was still in the 78 at Furniture Row, where he had the dominant car a lot of the races, or just, was a top car, but something just happened and he had a couple off weeks, and, the talent is there and they'll figure it out. Like Matt said, Hendrick, they'll start sharing some stats. They'll start sharing some data. And to me, they are playing around because, who was it? I think it was Gibbs said everybody ran Denny Hamlin's setup or something. It was figure it out.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to run. And it was Bubba Wallace. So that's what it was. He's like, you're going to run Denny's setup. And you know what? Denny, look at what he's doing. I'm sorry. Figure it out.
Yeah.
This is a winning setup. If you can't drive a winning setup, then guess what? You know what I mean? So I think
I have a problem with that.
Bubba out of a comfort zone.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that though, because it might be a winning setup for Denny.
Yeah. I was
different
gonna say,
drivers, different styles.
I agree, but I just think
driving style.
I just think they're trying. We've been talking about Bubba needs to do this. Bubba's not performing as well.
Yeah,
and I think they are
at least throw something at the wall and try to figure it out. Right. Yeah,
because Bubba has a comfort zone. You know how he communicates with a crew chief. Yeah, give me this, give me that. Well, guess what, Bubba? What you're explaining for me to do,
not working out.
It's not working. I don't know how to set your car up, so this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
we're gonna give you Denny's setup
and see what you can do with it. Yeah.
And then we'll work from there. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think they're just trying to do something.
Just throwing pasta at the wall and seeing if it sticks.
Yeah.
You know. I know Penske did the same thing a couple weeks ago. I forget who. I think Blaney ran Brad Keselowski's setup at Richmond or something. Yeah. And again, it didn't work out really for him.
No.
So really, setups are per the driver. But again, try something out. Yeah,
right.
Especially for how much hype there was around 2311 racing And so far, the performance hasn't been what people were expecting it to be. You got to try something. You got to, you can't leave all your eggs in the basket and then wonder why none of them hatched. You got to do a little bit of something somewhere along the line. So if they're trying Denny's setup and it works for Denny, hey, maybe Bubba learns how to drive Denny's setup and just figures it out.
And I'll tell you what is scary too, going back to you're talking about Truex and, the package, that 750, horsepower package that, he's got through his wins. All three of those wins, all three of those racetracks are in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
And I had it written down at work today and I forgot to bring my notes home from work. There's like 6 races left of the 550 package. So like Truex, to me, like Denny might have the points lead, but
Truex has the car figured out.
He's got the car, you know, and that package going into the playoffs, that could be, that's a scary thing to have to deal with when someone figures that car out. So pay attention to those racetracks and what package they're running, because like you, Whitey, if you don't realize, Dover's coming up, what are they like? If you don't look to see what they're running, fantasy wise and stuff, you could kind of judge what cars do better, with certain packages.
I wonder what kind of information the drivers share when it comes to playoff times and you have multiple drivers under the same organization running for the playoffs. Do you think things kind of hush up a little bit and they get a little bit more secretive?
No, I think they lean on each other.
Yeah,
they have to. They, as a team, I think they need each other to get from one round to the next. And if it's the final 4, obviously, it's all out, winner takes all. But yeah, the team is going to work together to try to get the team. And I think it works at Gibbs. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, like, Joe Gibbs is a huge part. He shows up at those races. He does prayers with the team. Yeah. He's there at the pit bot. Like, he is involved with that race team.
He wants it to be a team
organization like a coach. Yeah. He does run it like a football team. And, and it seems to work because, those teammates, sometimes they have some run-ins with one another. And full ball coach brings them into the office and he'll sit them down.
We're not going to have any more of that.
Right. So I think as a team, the Gibbs guys work really well together.
All right. We're starting to run out of time, getting a little long in the tooth. So I'm just going to run through a little bit more of the highlights of the race real quick. Kyle Busch had a great recovery from an early race cut tire for a 3rd place finish. Just Kyle Busch doing well. I'm not a Kyle Busch fan, but I was happy to see it. Kurt Busch, his brother, complete opposite. Season going up in flames. Another guy having the worst season of his career so far. I looked up the numbers, and this is the worst Kurt's done since the year he got dropped from Penske, ran a back marker, and then got a better ride. Like, he is doing god awful, and his car literally ended up in flames yesterday. Ross Chastain running up front a little bit on some weird pit strategy. I think, Matt, you said it in our text message thread yesterday. He seems to be starting to figure out the Cup car a little bit, which is good.
Well, before that, I mean, I don't have anything that I really want to get into with that, but before they tried that long pitting strategy, he was running like 10th and 11th, which is good for what he's, compared to where he's been running the rest of the season. So he's figuring it out a little bit.
Honestly, for the first half of the first quarter of the season, I forgot Ross Chastain was even in Cup.
I did too.
Besides in like a back marker car where he normally would be. But again, Ganassi hasn't been real great as of late. So who knows? You want to know what? Kurt Busch is one of those guys that could squeak out a win anywhere. His last win though was at Las Vegas last year in the playoffs. His home track. I'm wondering though, we talked about it a little bit last week. If he retires, there's no better last race to have than a win at your home track too. So I wouldn't blame Kurt if he hung up the racing boots a little early.
Agreed.
Cole Custer, same exact accent as Eric Almirola, another Stuart Haas guy, struggling in the back. And that's pretty much all I have for this week's race. Here on the Bump and Run podcast, we like to spotlight the last place person. Everyone talks about the first place person. We like to talk about the last place person. Again, it was Eric Almirola. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Someone definitely put a curse on him for sure. He is in his 4th year at Stuart Haas Racing, currently 28th in points. He's never missed the playoffs but since being with SHR, but it's not looking good for this year. especially with for how many winners we have. Unless something happens, he wins at Daytona, it could be done, or a road course or something out there. But I'm just not seeing the performance out of Eric Almirola, and that pretty much wraps up the weekend for the Goodyear 400 at Darlington Raceway. I got a couple pick the lane segments. If you guys want to put the choose cone out, this is the time I throw a topic out. You choose the lane you want to go in. And there's still some talks of Junior Motorsports might make the jump to Cup next season. If they do, who do you think will run for them? I've got a tinfoil hat theory on this one. But Matt, you are the resident Junior Motorsports fan. If they do move to Cup, who do you think they go for? Do you think they bring an Xfinity Series guy up with them to Cup, or do you think they try to pick an already experienced Cup regular to move over to a new team?
So when you threw this question at us earlier today, I really thought about it. So, well, first of all, I'll say I still think that it's a pipe dream. I don't think that Junior Motorsports is going to be running in the Cup Series next year.
Yeah.
But let's just say, let's just say they do. They make the jump. They run one guy up there in the Cup Series just to try it out with the new car.
Yeah.
I have 3 theories that I want to throw out there for you. Starting with the least likely in my mind.
I hope one of them isn't what my tinfoil hat is.
Okay, well, I just kind of gave my first one away. What about MTJ?
Okay.
Right? I mean, with
their hunting buddies.
With Gibbs having that big stable of guys piling up, in the Xfinity and Truck Series.
Yep, a lot of Toyota drivers in the pipeline.
Yeah. Like I said, a very unlikely scenario, but let's just say for the sake of arguing here on the show that he picks MTJ. They're best buddies. Who better to figure out brand new equipment than a former champion, somebody who's obviously still running.
Give you the feedback.
Yeah, unbelievably, at a top level. We just saw him dominate yesterday. My second theory would be Corey LaJoie. Dale has previously said that they tried getting him at Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series.
Okay.
And for one reason or another, it just didn't work out, whether Corey wanted to stay in Cup or the sponsorship wasn't there. But he has made a run at Corey before. I think they have a pretty decent relationship with each other. He's been on the podcast this year on Dale's podcast. So it would be a step up in my mind for Corey because I would assume that Junior Motorsports would still have that Hendrick Motorsports affiliate.
Absolutely.
So it would definitely be a step up for Corey. And then here is, you guys know I am not a tinfoil hat guy. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. Who said earlier this year that the reason why they stepped away from racing is because the cars got too easy to handle?
Carl Edwards.
And what are they saying about these new cars coming up that they're supposed to be?
Puts it in the driver's hands. They're real hard to drive.
Dale takes a flight out to Kansas or Missouri or wherever the hell Carl Edwards is on whatever farm he is. And Dale convinces Carl to come back and run for him. Those two are buddies.
Yeah.
And Carl runs in Junior Motorsports equipment in the Cup Series. That's my tinfoil hat theory of the week.
I'm going to say your tinfoil hat is way bigger and way crazier than mine is.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. Can you see Carl Edwards coming back, Eric, to run for Junior Motorsports?
I was just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I mean, I love a good tinfoil hat.
Because I could see Martin Truex Jr. jumping over from Gibbs to run for his buddy Junior,
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that, but we talked about it earlier. If I'm going tinfoil hat, he puts his buddy Josh Berry in the car.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a little too far-fetched, too stretched out, too premature, maybe.
The only reason I say no is because they're having a hard time getting him sponsorship for the Xfinity Series. I think it'd be pretty hard to get sponsorship for the Cup Series. But I would love to see that.
Not if Junior and him run half a season together. They split the races.
Junior has said he really misses driving right now. I don't know if his wife would let him.
Go half and half. Yeah, Junior. If Junior's in the car, guess what?
The sponsors are coming.
In-house.
Hellman's will run with them. That leaf filter.
If Junior just gets a team, sponsors want Earnhardt name.
Yeah.
The Earnhardt name and that team, I think could propel the sponsorship.
That's true. I think for charter reasons, to get a charter, to keep a charter, you can't have multiple drivers splitting time like that. Am I right? Or at least running for points.
No, you definitely can have a charter because Spire has all those charters and they run this 77 with like 6 different guys and Cody Ware and all that.
Racing does it. I guess that's true. Okay.
I don't know if you'd be able to run for like owners points and stuff. I don't know. There might be some sort of points thing to it.
I don't see that happening with Junior, but hey, you never know.
All right. So my tinfoil. Well, Eric, do you have anyone that they would think you would jump into that JR Motorsports team if they went to Cup? Do you think they would bring a Xfinity guy along with them, or do you think they would bring someone else?
I think Junior would have to go with somebody that is going to contend and get him points. If he's fighting for points, he's going to want somebody that can handle that car.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would be an Xfinity guy. I think it would definitely be a veteran driver. To be honest with you, like I think he wants out of Penske. I wouldn't be surprised if Brad Keselowski would drive.
That's my tinfoil hat.
Wow. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
So I'm gonna pull it up on my phone. I got the Brad K Wikipedia page out here right now because I don't know if you can see it back there. It's a little bright. Trust me, I got the Brad K Wikipedia page.
I would assume. Yeah, I think he wants out, and I could see that veteran presence, a known champion, a known winner, someone that's going to get the job done, someone that's going to bring sponsorship, somebody who
already ran for Hendrick and Junior Motorsports, and
with his new adventures in that technologies machine shop space engineering program that he's doing too. You know, I just think maybe the companies that he knows within that could possibly hop on a sponsorship. So I could definitely see that, Whitey. So
that makes a lot of sense.
So
I don't even think that's a tinfoil hat scenario. I think that's a
reasonable possibility.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is if he went with an Xfinity Series driver, obviously I think he would go with Justin Allgaier. He's more than earned a Cup Series right at this point. He brings sponsorship to the team. I'm sure his sponsors would jump along with him in a Cup ride.
Now, I think that is probably the most plausible.
Yeah. But the tinfoil hat, because
to be honest with you, like I know he drives down there, I know he wins, but like he's been around for so long. I think I think if he stepped in that car, I think Justin Allgaier definitely could be one of the drivers to drive for Junior if he went to the Cup.
Absolutely. But here's where the conspiracy theory starts with me, the tinfoil hat and everything. So Brad Keselowski, he started his career with Hendrick Motorsports in 2008 in Cup. He ran some races for Junior Motorsports, I think 2 seasons with Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series. Then he switched over to Penske Racing. Apparently it was just one of those deals. And if you ever listen to the Junior podcast with Brad Keselowski, Dale Jr. kind of always felt bad for that whole situation, the way it went down. Now we got Brad Keselowski in a contract year. He's been in talks. Roger Penske said that they've been working towards a contract after that win at Talladega. It was announced that they were really close to a contract. But again, you know, the new car is going to supposedly help when it comes to ownership prices and all that stuff. If Junior really is looking into going to Cup, he's going to want a veteran running that Cup car to make sure that, you know, he gets the best feedback he can. And like I said, he was once part of that Hendrick Junior Motorsports family. And if Brad Keselowski doesn't seem to be the happiest with his teammates most of the time when it comes to Penske, really signing those short team contracts for 1 year at a time. And like you said, Eric, he does have options with his own personal businesses and stuff. Maybe, I mean, we got Matt DiBenedetto waiting for a ride to open. I
do agree with Matt, though, that I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah,
I think it's enticing.
Yeah,
I really do, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline at Team Penske over there too. We got Austin Cindric guaranteed to move to the Wood Brothers car. We got Matt DiBenedetto exiting the Wood Brothers car, but still has 1 more year on his contract where they have the option to bring him back. Let's say they put him in the 2 car and Brad Keselowski is suddenly looking for a job. I don't know if it'll happen,
I'd rather some of those guys go down to Xfinity, make that series a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I would like that too. Maybe see some guys end their careers in Xfinity series. All right. Well, I thought that was a pretty interesting one. A real quick one. The Choose Cone is back. It's time to pick a lane. Of course, this past weekend was Mother's Day, and it was the first scheduled Cup Series race on Mother's Day since the 80s. I'm curious to see what the TV ratings are, but should NASCAR keep the Mother's Day race, or do you think we should go back to the Saturday night race like we've had in years prior? What do you guys think?
So I'll make this quick. I mean, I'm always down for a night race. You guys know, you know, I've been vocal about that. I know Fox really isn't about the night races, especially on Mother's Day weekend. Clears out Sunday for mom so we can spend time with her.
Yeah.
But if it rains out, then we're back to square one where we were yesterday, and the race is on a Sunday
Anyways,
so
yeah.
I say keep it on the Sunday and just plan accordingly. Whitey.
I'm just saying, you know, like these late start times, if they started at 1 o'clock, I could have saw the whole race before dinner time, or they started at noon. Maybe if they do a throwback weekend on Mother's Day, they started at a throwback time and we get the green flag at 12:02 or whatever it used to be back in the day.
We're talking.
Definitely talking.
Yeah.
Throwback time. I could agree with that.
All right. How about you, Eric? You got any thoughts either way when it comes to the Mother's Day race?
I don't really give a shit when they race, dude, to be honest with you. I like a good night race, but, you know, if it's on Sunday, I would say stick with the Saturday night race, and just so you have that one weather day in there.
Okay.
Built in. And if you race on the Sunday, so be it. But I don't.
We're going to watch regardless.
We're going to watch regardless.
No matter when it is, yeah.
All right, and of course, this weekend was the throwback weekend, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of go over our favorite and least favorite throwbacks of all time and of this past weekend. Matt, you want to go first when it comes to the throwbacks?
Yeah, so I thought the best one of the weekend was by far, as far as my opinion goes, that Michael Annett Gatorade scheme down in the Xfinity series.
Oh yeah,
I think it's important in order for a paint scheme, a throwback paint scheme, to really pop off, and in order for it to be considered a good paint scheme, it has to have the same sponsor and the same exact paint scheme the way it did back whenever it was originally run. A lot of these
different
cars,
colors, sponsor colors, they change it around. Yeah, I don't like that either.
Right. A lot of these throwback schemes really missed the mark, and Michael Annett and that Gatorade scheme threw it back to Darrell Waltrip's Gatorade scheme, which is one of the all-time best NASCAR paint schemes ever.
Love that white paint scheme too.
Yeah, man,
so good under the lights.
Yep.
And something cool about that paint scheme, that was a one-off deal for Gatorade. That brought new sponsorship to that race for that one day. So they could do that throwback. And I thought that was cool that Gatorade got on board and sponsored it. I totally agree. That was a great paint scheme this weekend.
Absolutely. As far as the worst of the weekend, I thought it was Alex Bowman's. He threw it back to his crew chief, Greg Ives' first car that he drove. And I just didn't think it looked at all like that car that Greg Ives drove. So going back to what we were just saying about how in order for it to be considered a good paint scheme, it needs to look, in my mind, it needs to look identical to the one that they're throwing it back to.
Yeah.
And I thought they just missed the mark with it. And I'm going to make an exception to the rule that I just said about, sponsorship and all that. My favorite paint scheme, the throwback paint scheme that was ever run so far since they started doing this, was actually last year's. It was Jimmy Johnson's. Old 7-time was retiring, and he threw it back to the bottom half of his car was Dale Sr.'s paint scheme, and the top half of the car was Richard Petty's paint scheme. So it was one 7-time champion honoring the other two 7-time champions in the sport. I thought that was super cool, so I had to make an exception of my own personal rule of how I grade paint, throwback paint schemes to that car, because it was such a great tribute. So that was my favorite of all time so far.
What do you think the worst one of all time was? Do you have a worst one of all time?
I didn't have time today at work to look into it, so no, I'm just going to give you, I thought there's a lot of them actually that like I said, they just missed the mark one way or another, just didn't look like the car they were trying to throw it back to.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of them out there.
All right, Eric, how about you?
Well, I'll start with my worst of all time. And right out the bat, the minute I saw that come out, it's got to be Kurt Busch's throwback to his old orange Camaro. Like that was just like, come on, like
It was lazy.
Lazy. Fucking lazy. Worst all time, dude. Fuck that paint scheme. Trash. Like, could have done a million other options.
Yeah.
My, all-time favorite, though, I'll go. I thought about it, and I'm like, I can't go by. I just have to go with, like, what catches my eye. I'm like, damn, that's a sexy car. And I have to go with, as much as, we just talked about him, too, it kind of ties in Brad Keselowski, that Miller Genuine Draft car.
Yeah.
With the two-tone, the gold on the bottom. Black
Nailed it.
That classic rusty one.
Yep.
Amazing.
2016 version of it that he ran in 2016. That throwback, they nailed it. Like Matt said, same color, same sponsor, same everything.
Yeah.
The car just looked so friggin' sweet. And the gold and black, I appreciate that on any kind of
that
paint.
that was just an iconic
we're all
paint scheme to begin with,
and
too.
that car was being run in the 90s. It's just like,
exactly.
It was perfect.
So my worst of the weekend, Ricky Stenhouse, that 47 car.
That was rough.
Dude, it just like, come on. Like, what were you doing? It was just disgusting car.
Sad.
And, I'm going to keep on the old bandwagon here that I seem to be on. And I've been trying to jump off of it, but I just can't seem to get off of it. My favorite car of the weekend was William Byron, that Valvoline 24 car.
That was a great car.
Yeah.
As classic gets, as far as nailing, they even changed the number font on the car and everything. And I just thought, when I saw that car on the racetrack, I remember saying it out loud to my girlfriend. I go, wow.
Yeah.
I go, look at that 24
It's sharp.
car.
Yeah.
That is a good looking
That was a beautiful car.
So I'm going to have to go William Byron's is my favorite for this weekend.
All right. So one of my favorite of all times is one of your guys' worst, and one of my worst of all times is one of your guys' favorite of all times. So we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm just gonna say it. My favorite of all time was that Kurt Busch orange Camaro throwback. It was so bad that it was good, and I loved it. I love that Kurt Busch is just the biggest asshole about it, where he's like,
lazy. It wasn't even a NASCAR.
It wasn't even NASCAR. No, it was a throwback to his own personal street car. It was like an old 60s Camaro that was orange. And I thought it was hilarious. It was just so dumb. Like, to me, they'll always stick in the back of my head. I know it's bad, but I love it. It is my favorite. My worst of all time is that Jimmy Johnson 7-time throwback. Now, listen, hold on. Now, I actually picked this up at Target. I found the 1/64th scale. I'm showing the video if you're listening to the podcast. I picked it up because I understand what it represents. I like the meaning behind it. I like that he honored Richard Petty, the King. I like that he honored the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt. But this is the ugliest fucking paint scheme I have ever seen. It is so fucking ugly.
I will give it to you that it's not aesthetically pleasing as far as like the two paint schemes don't mesh.
They don't mix at all.
But it was the whole idea of thinking outside the box with that one, and his tribute to those two on his way out the door.
And
I
just all of it came together, and that's why it was
Whitey's one big gimmick right now.
Yeah.
All of his picks are just gimmicks. All this bullshit in his little head that it's created.
Like I understand how like the meaning behind it, and I was all for that. But I even remember the day it leaked on Twitter. I was like, really? And everyone was like, this is amazing. I'm like, this is the ugliest fucking thing I've ever seen. And that's no disrespect to Jimmy Johnson. And you want to know what? I get it. The whole weekend, they're honoring Jimmy Johnson too. Hendrick Motorsports had all their cars thrown back to old Jimmy Johnson cars. And then he threw it back to Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. I thought that was cool. I just think they could have did it a little bit better. I think they could have, maybe if they went with a different designer, it would have been a little bit more appealing looking. I'm going to say the best one of this weekend, though, Corey LaJoy in that number 7 Zurex car. I didn't even realize that they still were manufacturing like antifreezes and stuff. Like you could still go out and buy some Zurex fluids for your car. So it was really cool, one, to see them back in the sport on a car, and two, just the story with Corey LaJoie. He's in Alan Kowicki's old shop. He's got Alan Kowicki's old number, and he's driving Alan Kowicki's old sponsor on the car in a throwback wearing Alan Kowicki's fire suit. Like, you can't get much better than that. Like, he nailed it through and through.
Super cool.
And the worst one for me of the weekend, going to Kurt Busch, throwing it back to last week with the Monster Energy car. I thought that was stupid. And you want to know what? I guarantee it's Monster pulling the strings. Monster is the worst sponsor when it comes to having fun, I feel like, you know?
I thought they were going to be such a great sponsor for NASCAR at the Cup Series. And you know what? I'm kind of seeing that they're just not doing it for us.
They didn't want to have like other like Red Bull or anything come into the
they were
league.
kind of strict on what they wanted, and it kind of
when they were the series sponsor.
Yeah. Well, other series sponsors have done the same thing. Nextel did the same thing. They didn't want Singular or any other wireless company running paint schemes. So I understand that too. You know, you want to protect your brand image, especially when you're spending that money to be the title sponsor. But I just thought it was lame. Like, earlier on in the year, Monster won't let them produce any NASCAR die casts with their logo on it, which I think makes no sense at all. Especially when you have a winner win with your logo on the car. They won't do a winner's die cast or anything like that. I know Ty Gibbs wasn't going to get a winner's die cast because of that. And I think just Monsters, I don't know, just kind of lame in that aspect. So
which is like the total opposite of what their marketing tactics are too, you know? It doesn't make any sense to me.
And like, they could have did something cool with the Monster logo and a throwback, something. I don't know. I mean, it's green and black. There's endless possibilities. And
dude, I'll tell you what, we're talking about these paint schemes, and, you know, even though he's my driver, you know, Eric Jones in that 43 throwback to Andretti this weekend.
That was a great paint scheme.
It wasn't a terrible looking paint scheme. It was a cool looking paint scheme, but he won the fan vote for like paint scheme of the weekend.
Oh,
it wasn't bad.
Yeah, but I'm the driver. I like paint schemes. Like, it was a great paint scheme. Don't get me wrong, throwback, great. But I just think, like, sometimes like STP, Richard Petty, like sometimes like those big names just like
they automatically sway everybody.
Things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I almost went by some of my all-time. I just got to throw out other paint schemes. When Matt Kenseth in 2016 ran his Tide car. Tide car back in 2016.
That was a great car.
That's my takeaways from the paint schemes, though.
All right, and that's pretty much all I have for the Pickle Lane segment. Let's get right into the next weekend preview. Xfinity Series is going to be back on track this Saturday. Another early start, 1:30 p.m. on FS1 for the Drydene 200 in Dover. Loving those early starts. And Cup Series is going to be a 2 p.m. start on FS1 for the Drydene 400 on Sunday.
2 p.m. start. I like that.
2 p.m. start. Looking forward to it. Love those early starts. Just wish we had an earlier start this past weekend. Again, more noon starts, more 1 o'clock starts. We need them. Especially so far, so good. The weather looking good for Delaware next weekend, but things can change. So the earlier start for on the East Coast when it comes to rain in the spring. Like I said, we're in Pennsylvania right now, and Delaware is not too far south from us. But starting out,
Pennsylvania, I like that. I like that.
I stole that from a listener to my old radio show before I got let go from the radio. I stole that one. A caller called it Pennsylvania. I've been running with it ever since. I got to give that guy a shout out. So far for the top 10, we're going to be starting out. This is unofficial numbers. Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin making up the front row. William Byron and Kyle Larson, row number 2. Row number 3 going to be Harvick and Kyle Busch. Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott making up row number 5, and rounding out the top 10, Joey Logano and Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher also having a quiet, fantastic season. I wish I'd been playing him some more in fantasy. But speaking of picks, let's go over our picks last week. Matt, you picked Denny to win. He did not, but he got you 48 points. Kevin Harvick got Eric 37 points, and Austin Dillon scored me a measly 21 points. So that means, Matt, you're going first. Who are you picking this week for Dover? You want to give us some stats?
I will throw some stats your way. This is where we help win you guys some money. So, like I always do, I do the last 4 races. Last 4 race winners. We'll go back to 2019 spring race was Martin Truex Jr. The fall 2019 race was Larson as your winner, and then last year they ran Dover on back-to-back days because of the pandemic. First race Denny won, second race Harvick won. You could pretty much say that about most races last year. It was either Denny or Harvick who won most of them. So the average finishes inside the top 10. How about this? Martin Truex Jr. with a 1.8. So pretty much in the last 4 races, if he wasn't finishing first, he was finishing second. Yeah. So it's something to keep in mind. Harvick with a 3.3, Kyle Busch with a 7.5, Bowman with a 7.8, and Keselowski rounding out your top 10 with an even 10th place average finish. I will say a little asterisk next to that. Kyle Larson finished second in the last 2 races he ran at Dover. He just missed the 2 last year because of suspension, so keep that in mind.
Also keep in mind, though, that was a different rules package, I believe, in 2019 when he won. They were still doing the high downforce package at all tracks. Just something to think about.
Okay, well, that changes things for me. No, you know what? It doesn't. Stick with our guts, right?
Change it.
No, stick with your gut.
Change it, Matt.
Because you want Larson.
Change it. Oh, you son of a bitch.
So, okay. So, yes, I'm taking Larson. Let me finish up my stats real quick. Laps led. Denny has led 333 laps. Martin Truex Jr. with 235 and Harvick with 224. I almost changed it because Whitey almost convinced me there, but I'm sticking with Larson.
Almost got him to do it.
I'm sorry to throw you guys off. I just thought that was pretty important because Kyle Larson hasn't run the low downforce package at Dover yet in this Generation Cup car. So
they said he was going to be a step behind coming into this year too, and look at how he's running.
That's very true. That's very true. All right, Matt's going with Larson. Eric, who are you going with? It's a last minute audible.
Well, I had Larson, and I know Truex is the obvious here. I hate going obvious, though, and I've been kind of, already had my hands in the Vaseline jar all, podcast long, so I might as well, put the whole fist in and go with William Byron here.
Okay.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
Really,
you made me nervous.
Dude's running top 5 every week, and you just can't count him out, and I'm in some kind of, bandwagon, run here with Willie B, and
you're crushing on Willie B.
I'm crushing on Willie B right now, and there's just no denying it. And my gut tells me Willie B, so I'm going Willie B.
So as I was listening to the stats, I wrote down 2 names because I figured you guys were picking Larson and MTJ. I wrote down Kyle Busch and William Byron. So since you already picked Byron, I'm not going to go with Kyle Busch. I'm going to go with Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah.
I got to go with the hot hands. He's starting on the pole. He's won at Dover. He has
that right front go down, or he has an engine failure.
Yeah, that could happen too. Did any of us pick Denny?
No, for once, I think every week, let me see here. Really quick, not that any of the listeners care, but I do. Every week for the past, only for the past 4 weeks. Every week I picked 3 out of the 4.
I'm not going to pick Denny to win Dover. I think I don't want to pick Martin Truex Jr. either because I don't think he's going to do it back to back.
Yep. Don't change it. Don't change it. You picked Martin Truex Jr. It's set in stone.
Yeah, I picked Truex Jr. twice, and he won both those times. I picked him.
There you go.
So I feel like my luck with Martin Truex Jr. is going to run out, and he's going to cut that tire.
So you're not ever picked Truex or Denny yet this year.
I'm going to say that Chase Elliott finally gets his win in Dover this weekend. So again, we got the playoff picture. We're 12 races in. We have 10 different winners. It hasn't changed since last week. We got Michael McDowell, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr. with 3 wins on the season. Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Alex Bowen, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Busch are your 10 different winners for this season. Will next week for the Drydene 400 at Dover go to Martin? Wait, who are the picks to? William Byron. William Byron Will Kyle Larson win? Will Chase Elliott finally get his win of the season? Defending champ. He's been having a rough one. He's pretty good on short tracks. I think he could get it done down in Dover. It all goes down 2 p.m. on FS1, the Drydene 400, and we'll break it all down for you a Monday night. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying good night on the Bump and Run podcast.
Bump